I used to think jealousy meant one of two things. Either you were toxic or you were right. Either you were the problem or the other person was. There was no middle, no nuance, no useful meaning, just shame, panic, and arguments that somehow always started with something small and ended with both people feeling misunderstood. For a long time, that was my pattern. The moment I felt jealous, I treated it like an emergency. I either attacked, withdrew, or tried to act like I was totally fine while my mind built a whole movie behind my face. And the worst part is, the more I tried to suppress it, the louder it became. It would show up in my chest first, like heat, then in my thoughts. Why didn't they tell me sooner? Why do they seem happier with that person? Why am I suddenly feeling replaceable? I thought jealousy was proof that something was wrong with me. But one night I learned that jealousy is not always a crime. Sometimes it is data. It happened when my partner told me they were going out for coffee with an old friend, an ex-classmate, someone they used to be close to. The sentence was simple, casual even, but my body did not hear it as casual. My body heard danger. In less than 10 seconds, I felt my stomach drop. My face stayed calm, but inside I was already spinning. Who is this person exactly? Why now? Why do I suddenly feel like I'm being pushed to the side? I remember nodding and saying something neutral, but my tone had already changed, and my partner noticed. The old version of me would have picked a fight that same night, not because I truly wanted control, but because I wanted relief. I wanted my fear to stop. So I would ask sharp questions that sounded logical, but were really driven by panic. I would say I was just asking, when what I was really doing was searching for certainty. And if the answers didn't calm me down fast enough, I would become colder, quieter, more distant. Then they would feel accused, I would feel guilty, and nothing actually got solved. But that night I did something different. I didn't do it because I was suddenly healed and wise. I did it because I was tired. Tired of turning one uncomfortable feeling into a whole emotional disaster. So instead of arguing, I sat with one question that changed everything for me. What is this jealousy trying to tell me? That question sounds small, but it forced me to pause. Because jealousy by itself is not a conclusion, it is a signal, and signals need interpretation. A fire alarm can mean there is a real fire, or it can mean the toast burned. The sound is real in both cases, but the meaning is not always the same. Jealousy works like that too. Feeling it does not automatically mean your partner is doing something wrong, but it also does not automatically mean you are irrational. It means something inside you needs attention. So I started separating two possibilities. The first was insecurity. The second was a boundary issue. Those two can feel similar in the body, but they are not the same thing. Sometimes jealousy comes from insecurity. That is when the pain is more about fear than facts. Fear of being replaced, fear of not being enough, fear that if someone better appears, you will be abandoned. In that kind of jealousy, the threat is often amplified by old wounds, not just by the present moment. Maybe you grew up feeling compared to others. Maybe love felt inconsistent. Maybe you had to earn attention. So now, when your partner laughs with someone else, your nervous system does not just see a conversation, it sees a possibility of loss.
I understand.
That does not make you dramatic, it makes you human. But it also means the solution is not always to control the other person. Sometimes the real work is building inner safety. Other times, jealousy points to a boundary problem. That is different. That is when something in the situation actually violates what was agreed on or disrespects the relationship in a real way. Maybe your partner hides things, flirts in ways you both said were not okay, shares intimacy with someone else that crosses a line, or keeps you confused on purpose. In that case, jealousy is not only insecurity speaking, it is your mind and body noticing that something feels off for a reason. The feeling is still data, but now the data points toward a relationship issue, not just an internal one. The hard part is that many people never stop long enough to ask which one it is. They just react. They either shame themselves and say, "I'm crazy, I need to be less jealous." Or they blame the other person immediately and say, "If I feel this way, it must be your fault." But emotional maturity is being able to say, "I feel something strong, and I'm going to investigate before I judge." So that night, I investigated. I asked myself 3 things. First, what exactly happened? Not my interpretation, not my fear, just the facts. My partner told me in advance that they were meeting an old friend for coffee. They did not hide it. They were open about who it was. They were not defensive. Those facts mattered. Second, what story did my mind add? My mind added this. Old friend means old feelings. Coffee means emotional intimacy. If they enjoy this more than being with me, I will become less important. Notice how fast the mind moves. In seconds, I had gone from a coffee plan to emotional replacement. Third, what do I need right now? This was the real question. Because under jealousy, there is often a need that has not been named yet. Maybe the need is reassurance. Maybe it is clarity. Maybe it is respect. Maybe it is transparency. Maybe it is consistency. Jealousy is often the loud emotion sitting on top of a quieter truth. When I got honest with myself, I realized my hidden need was not control. It was safety. I did not actually want to forbid anything. I wanted to feel secure in the relationship while this happened. I wanted to know that I mattered, that I was not being made foolish, that there was a place for me in the truth. So instead of saying, "Why are you going with them?" I said something like this. "I noticed I got jealous when you told me about meeting your old friend. I don't want to turn this into a fight. I think what I need is a little more reassurance and clarity, because part of me feels unsafe, even though I know that may not be your intention." That conversation changed everything. Not because the jealousy vanished in 1 second, but because I stopped using jealousy as a weapon and started using it as information. My partner responded very differently to that version of me. They did not feel attacked. They explained the context. They reassured me. They asked what would help. And because I was calmer, I could actually hear them. What could have become a night of suspicion turned into a conversation about emotional needs. This is the method I now use. Jealousy equals data, not destiny, not guilt, not proof, data. First, identify the trigger. What happened? Second, separate the facts from the story. What do you know, and what did your fear add? Third, ask the most important question of all. What is the hidden need under this jealousy? Do I need reassurance, honesty, clearer expectations, more consistency, or a real boundary conversation? And here is the part many people miss. Your need does not automatically mean the other person is wrong. But your feeling also does not automatically mean you should silence yourself. You are allowed to bring your emotions to the relationship without turning them into accusations. You are allowed to say, "This stirred something in me. Can we talk about it?" That is not weakness, that is emotional skill. At the same time, this method can reveal uncomfortable truths. Sometimes after you slow down and look closely, you realize your jealousy is mostly old fear. That is painful, but empowering, because it means you can work on self-worth, self-trust, and nervous system safety instead of trying to control every external situation. Other times you realize the feeling is pointing to a pattern that really does need to be addressed. Maybe there has been secrecy. Maybe there has been disrespect. Maybe your boundaries have never been clearly discussed. In that case, jealousy is not something to bury. It is something to listen to carefully. What saved me was learning that emotions do not become wise just because they are intense, but they also do not become useless just because they are messy. Jealousy is messy. It can be immature, protective, insightful, exaggerated, or accurate, sometimes all in the same hour. That is why the goal is not to obey it blindly or suppress it completely. The goal is to decode it. Now, when jealousy shows up, I no longer ask, "What is wrong with me?" I ask, "What is this feeling trying to protect? What fear is underneath? What need is underneath? Is this about my past getting activated? Or is this about a real issue in the present?" That shift alone has changed how I love, how I communicate, and how I understand myself. So if you have ever felt jealous and then hated yourself for it, I want you to remember this. Jealousy is not always a sign that you are toxic, and it is not always a sign that your partner is guilty. Sometimes it is simply a message, a clumsy, emotional, uncomfortable message, but still a message. And when you stop treating it like a sin and start treating it like data, you give yourself a chance to respond with honesty instead of chaos. That is where better relationships begin. Not when you never feel jealous again, but when you finally learn how to listen to what jealousy is really saying.